got my answer the next morning as John hitched Ginger and me to the carriage. Happily, we'd both been sold to a wealthy earl who owned a large country estate several miles away. Merrylegs had been given to an old friend of the Gordons on the condition that he never be sold. I hated saying goodbye to the friendly pony, for I knew I would never see him again. But Ginger and I had to leave for our new home. The estate was called Earlshall Park, and it was a fine establishment. The main house was large and well kept, and there were many comfortable stables. For the most part, Ginger and I were content. We were well fed and looked after by grooms who knew their business. But as Ginger and I often commented to each other, there was something missing, the feeling that the people around us were our friends. Soon we discovered that one person at Earlshall Park was definitely not our friend. The Earl's wife was a stern-looking woman with a harsh voice. Ginger and I were often harnessed to the carriage so that she could be driven to other estates for tea. But she was a fashion-conscious woman, and in keeping with the style of the day, ordered the coachman to place Ginger and me in a bearing rein whenever we drove the carriage. I'd never worn this type of rein because Squire Gordon had thought it was cruel. But Ginger knew what it was like and was not happy about wearing one. In a matter of days, I understood why. One afternoon, Ginger and I were harnessed to the carriage as usual. But suddenly our reins were pulled so tight that our heads were unable to move up or down. This was uncomfortable, and it made it impossible for us to use all of our strength. I felt shooting pains go through my back and legs when we tried to go uphill. "Now you see what I've been talking about," Ginger said when we returned to the stable. "Today wasn't too bad. But if they decide to make our reins any tighter, they'd better watch out. I promise you, I won't take it." Unfortunately, as Ginger feared, our reins got tighter each day. I began to dread being put into the harness, although I made the best of it and didn't complain. Ginger didn't say much, but I knew she was getting restless. After many weeks of this, the Earl's wife came out one day, took one look at Ginger and me, and reprimanded the coachman. "Really, York, I've had enough of this nonsense. The horses are not fit to be seen. Raise their heads at once." The man reluctantly drew back my head, fixing the reins so tight it was almost unbearable. Ginger saw what was coming, and as the groom walked around to her, she reared up suddenly and knocked him over. Several servants ran to hold her, but she just kept rearing and kicking until she tired herself out. I was led back to the stable, and Ginger was brought in soon afterward. She was never put into the carriage harness again.